Today we're going to do a gentle introduction to functions in Python, and many of these concepts will be general to any programming language. This video requires you to understand strings, to understand lists, to understand for loops. I hope you understand those things. And to understand data types. What's a string, what's a boolean, what's an integer, what's a double or a float. So let's start. Well, functions save us lines of code when we want to do something that is repetitive, and they also help us write programs that are more understandable. Take, for example, this. I want a function that prints the world's hello world. In order to create this function, the first thing that I do for any function that I want to create is the word def. So I will put the word def in here, which means define. The name of the function. Functions perform actions. They perform snippets of code. So I want to name this an action that is clear to me what it's going to say. So this will be say hello, for example. After the name of the function, I will put an open and close parentheses for now and a colon. Having parentheses after the name immediately indicates that this is a function too in my program. Then I'll hit enter, and hopefully my text editor or my IDE, my coding interface, will indent me so that I am inside the function, inside the definition of the function. Now to say hello world, what is it that I need to do? Well, I need to print hello world. Yes? This is all I need to do. I know what to do. I don't need anything from anybody. I know exactly what to do. If I run this, nothing gets printed because all I've done so far is define a function, tell the computer, hey, this is a recipe. If you ever want to use it, you got to tell me, but it's a recipe. Think of this as making ice cream, right? So this is a chocolate ice cream, or you're making a chocolate ice cream. You have the recipe for chocolate ice cream, but you're not going to make one unless somebody asks you to. Well, the way we ask the computer to execute the code inside this function is simply by typing the name of the function, open and close parentheses. Now, the computer not only stores this recipe, this snippet of code, but here it actually executes that snippet of code. So if we run it, we see that it says hello world. And now, say hello is much more expressive in terms of the program than if I simply say, print hello world. Print hello world is clear enough, but you have to make one step of deductions. Here, say hello, it'll say hello. I can do it twice if I want to. Right? Boom. And then it prints twice. All right. So having an understanding of this concept is very useful, but there's more than we can say with functions. I will delete these two for convenience for the next step. Now, let's do this. I want a function, but that not only says hello, but it'll say hello to whatever name I want, okay? In the analogy of the ice cream, this is like having an ice cream, and the buyer, the customer, needs to tell me which toppings to put. So I can say, I offer an ice cream with toppings, and I have the recipe, but I really need you to tell me what topping should go in the ice cream. It is the same thing. I know how to do a code that will say hello to a name, but I need you to tell me what the name is going to be. In this case, we start the same. Def, the name of the function, because it'll say hello and a name, I'm going to call this function greet. And I'm going to do the open and close parentheses and the colon. Now, because I need something from the user, or I need something external, which is the name, because I don't know the name off the top of my head. It could be any name, right? I need someone to supply the name, and we will put it in parentheses. I need a name. In here, you will put whatever you need to actually execute the function in terms of variables. So this name is a variable name. I call it name because it's exactly what I need. It's a name, right? But you can call it and you can call it whatever you want. All right, and here what I will do is I will say print hello and then comma, and then the name, whatever name. So if you call this function and you tell me what name you want to say hello to, I will print hello and that name right after it. Again, this is just a recipe, it's not doing anything. If I run it, nothing is printed. This is just a recipe. How do we call this? How do we execute this recipe? Again, we type the name of the function, parentheses, and in parentheses, what we want to supply for this function as a name. And let's say I want to supply Louis. So now my code is greet Louis. That is far more expressive than print hello name, right? Greet Louis, that's understandable. I'm gonna greet Louis. And if I run it, it says, hello Louis, okay? Now another use that we can give this in a program, I'm going to comment this code. Another use that we can give this in a program is, but let's say I have a list of names that I want to greet, right? Or I want to send an email, kind of spam email, right? I have the list of users that I want to send it. So list of names, and that's going to be Louis, Sarah, George, and Herb. Okay? I want to send that email, and what I'm going to say is I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to loop through this list for every one of these names, for n in LON, in list of names. So for every name in this list, I'm going to greet that name, greet n. So for every n, Louis, then Sarah, then George, then Herb, I'm going to execute greet with that corresponding name. So if we run this code, you will see that I end up with hello Louis, hello Sarah, hello George, hello Herb, right? You can imagine this can be something, instead of hello, this can be spam, and this can be dear, whatever. You've received, there's an African prince waiting for money, whatever. This can be a thank you cards, right? So instead of saying hello Louis, you can say thank you Louis for your present, whatever. So this is a function, and this is how it's used in a program. This is a lot more understandable than print hello comma name. You can say list of names, Louis, Sarah, George, Herb, and then for every name, greet that name. It is readable. It's fairly readable. Let's do one more. Let's create a function to compute a percentage of tip from a check. Well, again, it's going to be def, and then the name of the function, in this case, the action is compute tip, for example. The parentheses, the colon. Now, what do we need to compute the tip of a check in a restaurant? Well, we need two things. We need the total of the check, and we need the percentage of tip, the percentage that we want to tip over that check, right? With those two things, I can compute the tip. The computation of the tip is as follows. T for tip is going to be the total times the percent divided by 100. That's how you compute the tip. If I run this, well, I'm going to comment this program so I don't get mixed printouts here. If I run this, nothing will happen because, again, I've defined a recipe, but I have not done anything with it. If I call this compute tip, and I pass the parameters, let's say this is a bill of $250, and the percentage is 20% or 20% of tip there, right? And I run this, still I get nothing. Why is that? Well, the reason is because I'm not printing anything. There's no print command at all here. Now, I can put a print after the compute tip, right? So I can say print t. And in this case, if I run this, I will get 50. But 50 just by itself is really of no use. I want to be able to use that 50 and say the tip of the total is 50. Like, I want to give a better message. Alternatively, I can produce, like when you go buy a coffee, in those machines, there's like a list of values for the different tips. Maybe I want to produce that. Because the things that I want to do with the number in the tip are varied, is not good for me to put the print here, because every time I want to change that print, I need to redo the function. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to return the t, this computation, back to the user. So in this case, if I run this code, I'm still not printing anything. But you know that 20% of 250 is $50. What the computer will do when it sees this is it will go here, it will execute this bit of code, and the result is going to be put right here. It's going to put a 50. This is of no use. I would love to store that value and use it later. So I can say tip equals compute tip, and then I can say print 20% is, and then the tip. If I run this, I get 20% is 50. I can compute the tip 18, for example. It's going to be compute tip, again the same total, 250, and the percentage is going to be 18. And then I can print 18% is tip 18. And if I run this code, I will have 20% is 50, 18% is 45. And now I'm starting to do things with this tip, because the result of compute tip is return. I call this code is executed, and then the result t is returned, and it's put in tip 18, and I can use it. I can use it later. So to summarize, functions are defined with the def command, the name, which is hopefully a verb, an action, open parentheses, 0, 1, or 2 parameters or more parameters if you need, close parentheses, colon, some recipe, some code, and then a return of a final result that you want to use later. Okay? How do we call this recipe that's stored in the computer? Well, we type the name of the function, open parentheses, and then we provide the parameters that it needs, close parentheses, and it will run. Usually we want to store the output someplace so that we can use it later on. I hope this you have understood this. I hope this is clear, and we'll see you in the next video.